It's been a hard week in the history of humanity. We had an earthquake that's killed thousands and devastated millions. We have refugees fleeing violence, riots in Baltimore. And yesterday I was reminded again of the senseless violence we commit on ourselves with the execution of 8 people in Indonesia. And I don't condemn Indonesia, but I do condemn the act of which my country is also complicit. Amidst all this death, I was remembering a meditation on death written by John Donne and made famous by Ernest Hemingway. The last 4 lines go, "Any man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, do not send for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." And I wanted to think, amidst all this violence, of something that I could share with you. And I found a poem written by a young man who was impressed into a forced labor camp at a limestone quarry during the occupation of Poland. And he wrote several poems about his time there. And one of them in particular, he describes the death of another young man like himself. I'd like to share that with you here. This is The Quarry by Karol Jo zef Wojtyła. And if you're into world history, you should look him up and see whom he became. He wasn't alone. His muscles grew into the flesh of the crowd, energy their pulse. As long as they held a hammer, as long as his feet felt the ground, and a stone smashed his temples and cut through his heart's chamber. They took his body and walked in a silent line. Toil still lingered about him, a sense of wrong. They wore gray blouses, boots ankle-deep in mud. In this they showed the end, how violently his time halted. The pointers on the low-voltage dials jerked, then dropped to 0 again. White stone now within him, eating into his being, taking over enough of him to turn him into stone. Who will lift up that stone, unfurl his thoughts again under the cracked temples? So plaster cracks on the wall. They laid him down, his back on a sheet of gravel. His wife came, worn out with worry. His son returned from school. Should his anger now flow into the anger of others? It was maturing in him through his own truth and love. Should he be used by those who came after, deprived of substance, unique and deeply his own? The stone's on the move again, a wagon bruising the flowers. Again, the electric current cuts deep into the walls. But the man has taken with him the world's inner structure, where the greater the anger, the higher the explosion of love.